Hi there, my name is Cami Cannikins, and I'm an educator in Alberta, Canada. In the summer of 2023, I was visiting friends and schools in Africa right when ChatGPT was new, and I was able to introduce them to ChatGPT, and we had a lot of fun investigating it. Their excitement left me wondering about how this new tool, generative AI, might be used to tackle the great digital divide that we know exists when we talk about global education. This pondering led me to my Google Innovator question. How might we help African low-income teacher countries prepare their students for a future world that involves AI, artificial intelligence? Of course, this is a very complex question, and as I dug into it, I soon realized that my friends in wealthier Western countries needed to help understand some of the ways that teaching in low and middle income countries was very different. This led to a podcast called Classrooms Beyond Borders, where I talk to teachers around the world and have them describe the daily life of education. How big is your school? How many students are in your classes? What do school buildings look like? What do your outdoor areas look like? Is there reliable electricity? Do you have technology? Do you have internet? How do students get to school? What does that look like? All those types of questions. Let's go ahead and meet some of these teachers. One of the first teachers that I've talked to is my friend Esther Masunda, and she teaches in northern Zambia. And so we can see some pictures of her school here. Now, at her school, there's 700 students, 22 teachers, and for technology, those 22 teachers and 700 students, they share about 4 or 5 computers. So you can imagine how that impacts their access to technology. Another podcast guest is coming from Kenya, and I've interviewed Moses Okoth, and he runs a special STEM school where students come on the weekends to learn about robots and drones and all sorts of things. And you can see on the screen here some of the pictures of the rural schools that his students come from. You can see that they are very basic in their construction. And on our podcast episode, he even talks about many schools in rural Kenya where school is still held underneath a tree. Another podcast coming from Africa are my friends from a larger school in Uganda, the capital city. So in this school, this is one of the places where we did training on ChatGPT. And you can see here that the school has computers. Now, this lab has about 40 to 50 computers. It's one of the largest computer labs in the city. All of these computers are secondhand or third hand. And although there's a large lab here, none of these computers are connected to the internet. And if we just scroll down the page here, you can see pictures of the kitchen. And in this kitchen, you can see where they cook meals. And so instead of buying intranet, which is expensive for the school feeds about 750 students nice hot meal every single day. So they felt that that is their priority over internet. If teachers want to access internet on these computers, many don't have their own computers, they have to use a personal device and hotspot from their phone. Now, speaking of phones, one of the things that is super important in Africa is not even so much the computer devices, but that AI can be accessible on smartphones. Take a listen to what happens when the director of the school announces to the teachers in this teacher conference that they will be getting smartphones from some of the visitors. So you can see that celebrating, and this is just a clip. It goes on for about 2 minutes. So my friend Esther, she is going to be on the first episode of the podcast, and there's another episode coming up of Moses. The episode with Esther is already available for a sneak peek. I'm currently editing and recording other podcasts, but the podcast with Esther from Zambia, you can listen to her typical day. And I hope that you will listen so that you can get an idea of what this podcast will be like, so that you can learn about schools all over the globe. To find this podcast, you can search Classrooms Beyond Borders on any podcast player like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can also search it on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to hear more stories about our teacher friends across the world. Join me on Classrooms Beyond Borders, A Day in the Life, a great podcast.